Welcome back to another wonderful Warrior Wednesdays. I'm your host, Peter Not So White, also known as Kanchuke Tachmiet, translated from Tunaha. It means night runner. I come to you from the unceded Coast Salish territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people. Sukani for allowing me to be a guest on your beautiful, beautiful lands. And today, I want to talk about age. I kind of touched on it last week a little bit about how age is a mindset. And it truly is a mindset, because there are people out in this world that are living proof that no matter what your age is, you can do extraordinary things. And I want to drop some cool knowledge about some of these people that you know of that have done things later on in their lives, as they accumulated knowledge, as they had life experiences, as they grew more wisdom. They were like that bamboo tree. The Chinese bamboo tree is a perfect example of just sticking with something long enough, and if you do, you'll flourish 90 feet and so on, right? It takes 5 years. That's a long time to be watering a plant, to be seeing zero progression, and then all of a sudden in 5 years you get a little sprout, a tiny little sprout. And then within the first, they say 9 months after that, that bamboo tree can grow from that little sprout up to like 60 to 90 feet tall. That's phenomenal. That's dedication right there. That's discipline. So there are people out in this world that have done things later on in their life. And if you're a little bit older in age, you have an advantage over younger people. You've been able to witness the changes within the last couple decades on how fast we've transformed. You may even remember, depending on how old you are, is those party lines that they used to have. You'd get on the phone and try to get a hold of someone, and there'd be a bunch of people talking on that line. I heard stories about that. You'd remember the phone booth, the payphone. There still are random payphones around, but the ring, the old touch tone phones, where you'd have to go to the number 8 and then swipe it, and then number 6 and swipe it, and blah blah blah. And before, you had to use area codes to call people. I remember that, where when I was young enough, where there was a few numbers that I remembered, and you didn't have to use an area code before you called the number. You would just call the number. And I can still remember my adopted grandparents' phone number from when I was a little kid. I still can remember that. There's a few numbers I can remember just because I was so used to dialing them. And some of you people out there in this podcast land may know someone, you may have heard of the alcohol, even though I don't drink. I know I've heard of it, Grey Goose. The person who invented Grey Goose, they didn't even invent it until they were 78 years old. Or I should say 78 years young. Just imagine that. Imagine being 78 and inventing a vodka like Grey Goose. It's one of the higher end vodkas. You see a lot of rappers and a lot of like famous people talk about Grey Goose. That's how you know you've made it, when other famous people are talking about your product and it's praised. Just imagine that, being like 78, grinding it out, and you finally get a break, and your invention, your creation finally blows up. That's pretty phenomenal. Just imagine that. Or imagine being Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman didn't become quote unquote famous until he was 52 years young. 52 years around the sun, and you finally make a big break in what you've been wanting to do in your life. Just imagine that. It's crazy how people have just been so accustomed now to the microwave effect, where they want everything done in an instant. People want to post 3 things on TikTok and blow up, or they want to post 3 things on Instagram and blow up, or they want to they want to have that overnight success, when there's no such thing as overnight success, because it takes time. They say it takes a minimum of 10,000 hours of doing whatever you want to do just to become at a decent mediocre level of it. Like myself, it'll take me 10,000 hours of talking on a podcast, creating video, creating content, for it to even become near some of the stuff you see out there. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with putting the work in now, learning how to edit, learning about, different styles of lighting, learning about different editing techniques. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with my stuff sucking because I know it'll just keep getting better, and it'll just keep getting better. Even the way I talk, it'll just keep getting better if I keep putting in the hours. A minimum of 10,000 hours before I expect anything. Well, before I don't even want to expect anything. A minimum of 10,000 hours before I see that sprout, like that bamboo tree. Stan Lee, by far one of the most humblest people out there. Some of the greatest creations known to this planet is from Stan Lee. And Stan Lee was just shy of his 39th birthday before he published the Fantastic Four. Imagine that. Imagine being 39 years young and getting a break. Whatever age you're at right now, you may feel young compared to some of these people. Vera Wang, because I want to be inclusive of women as well. Vera Wang didn't design her first dress until she was 40. 40 years old, you decide to design dresses and then blow up in the fashion industry. Laravine Cox, she was in The Orange is New Black. She didn't get that role. Well, she got that role at the age of 41. And then later on, a couple years later, at 45, she was nominated for an Emmy. Imagine being 45 years old, young, 45 years young, because age is a mindset, and being nominated for an Emmy. Most people think that at 40 you're starting to wind down to end life, when our technology, our advancement in life is allowing people to live a lot longer in life. Because look at Stan Lee. Stan Lee lived until he was 95. Just imagine that. Imagine living around this world, this earth, for 95 years. So whatever you're at right now, just picture 100 living to. If you take the things that I talk about and even use 1% of them, you will live to be 100. If you don't have a freak accident and something happens, just say you live out your life in a healthy way and you die of natural causes, you could live up to 100 years old. So wherever you're at in life right now, whatever age you are, just picture yourself living to 100. Some of you may not even be halfway through your life yet. You still have another 60, 70 years on your life. Imagine that. Imagine all that knowledge you can accumulate in 100 years. Even another 10 years from now. Another 15 years from now. Like myself, I'm still a young man. I understand that I got at least another 70 years in me of putting out this type of content, with helping people, with making this place a brighter place. I got another 70 years in me, 80 years minimum. And I joke about it because, in the powwow world, they categorize dancers by juniors and senior adults. And I joke that I'll be around my 40s, because junior adults usually end around 35. I'll end up dancing in my junior adults for another 5 years, 6 years, because I'm going to keep pushing those young guys to dance hard. I joke about that, and no one will even know, because most people don't realize how old I am. They think I'm a lot younger than I am, and sometimes I use that to my advantage. So that's the thing about being, indigenous to Turtle Island. We have those genetics that make us look young forever. Some of us, not all, majority of us though. Even my parents, my mom, my birth mom, still looks pretty young for her age. You would never tell how old she was. And there's people out there that I know of that are indigenous. I'm like, whoa, you're that old? Like, I thought you were way younger than that. And I'm blown away by some people. So, even one of my best friends, she's in her 50s, and she looks like she's 30. Like, if you see her, like, oh yeah, she's pretty young, but she's not. It's crazy. It's cool. It's a blessing that we'll look young forever. It's all of our ancestors' prayers. So just realize that age is just a mindset. Age, when people say, oh, I'm getting too old for this, or I'm getting, I'm starting to crack more, or I'm getting sore. No, you're not. Because there's people out there in their 80s that are setting Olympic records. There's someone who invented a vodka that's a high-end vodka at 78. Just imagine that, Age is a mindset. You need to relearn that. Rethink what you've been taught about age and understand that you can live a lot longer in your life, and not just live, thrive through life. If you drink more water, if you meditate more, if you stretch, if you exercise more, you will start to feel better. And if you start to eat a healthier lifestyle, whatever that looks for you, you will prevent diseases coming into your life. You can actually, if Alzheimer's runs in your family, they actually have studies now that you can prevent Alzheimer's by lifting weights. Working out will actually strengthen your mind to delay Alzheimer's. So if you have that, a history of your family getting that and being diagnosed with that, well, start lifting weights, start working out, because you're not only working out your body, you're actually giving yourself a better fighting chance at delaying that Alzheimer's. That's pretty interesting. And I've talked about it before in other podcasts about stretching, how stretching relieves stress. And there's just certain times you'll be triggered out of nowhere that stress will be relieved and you'll just have a trigger. But if you do the things that I talk about and impose even like 1% of them, you will thrive until you're at least 100. Like I said, if there's no freak accident in your life, you will have that happen to you, which is phenomenal, right? Think about how many lives you can affect in a good way by being a good person. If you were here for 100 years, I know that there's gonna be people already that I've affected that I will never ever meet in my life. And I know that to be true now because I've helped people, and there's people that I don't even know that I've helped. I think I've only scratched the surface on when people come to me and say, hey, your stuff has helped me with this. Your stuff has helped me change my life. Because I've only just begun and I'm starting to create this revolution. Just imagine if in 70 years from now, Mr. Peter Not So White, where I'm gonna be at. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the change, the transformation. I'm excited to see that ripple effect. And there are gonna be people that I will never ever meet that I've affected. So if you think you're getting old, quote unquote old, it's just a mindset. And you need to start realizing that age is a mindset. You need to get out more. You need to get active. Drink more water. Stretch. Meditate. Treat your body like a vehicle. Respect it. Take care of it. Because it's the only one you've got. You're only going to get one vehicle right now anyways, because they haven't figured that out how to do that yet. But for now, you only have this one vehicle. So make the trip enjoyable. Take the time to enjoy life and be in the moment. So with that, I'm going to end this podcast. Have an amazing week. Sukani, Dagas, share this podcast. If it touched you, you're helping me out as well by spreading the word, by spreading the light, by creating our Wealthy Warriors community, making it stronger, and hashtag the Wealthy Warrior. I want to start trending this now. I want to ask that of you. When you post positive things, hashtag the Wealthy Warrior. Because if you go look it up on Instagram right now, there isn't very many hashtags of the Wealthy Warrior. And that's what I want to start now, as a revolution of Wealthy Warriors. So remember, everything always happens for the right reasons. See you next Wednesday. Take care, all my warriors.